Okay, so this is the drivetrain I had in the dually. I actually sold it, didn't really post about it. So it's a built two-wheel drive 6L90, which is going to wind up in my daily. And then this is an LY6 bottom end with 799 heads that had bigger valves put in it, stainless Farrier ones, and the whole heads went through and got ported and whatever else. So I'm going to pull this drivetrain apart, and the tranny is going to wind up in my daily sooner or later, and this is going to wind up in my truck sooner. Hello everyone, we are back for round 2 on this guy. I have some updates. Last time the tranny was sitting on the floor. Last time the motor was sitting way over there and the turbo was sitting somewhere. So let's show you what's happened. Motor is in, quote unquote in. It's sitting on wood. It's not actually in. The transmission is sitting on Jackson wood. However, it's kind of roughly in. Motor plates got sort of trimmed out. I don't know that I love the idea of the motor plate now that I've got all the accessories cut into it with the AC compressor and the alternator and all that. I had to cut a lot of the bottom plate just to get that stuff in. And I'm gonna build turbo headers on this, like not a log, actual headers. So there's gonna have to be a collector somewhere here, and I don't want to have them fucking hanging way out in the middle of nowhere. I want it to look nice still, so I may actually wind up going back to the motor mounts and ditching the motor plate. Also, I want to run a 5-inch downpipe on this. You'll notice that the turbo is mounted. Ta-da! This is a 5-inch chunk of elbow that I had left over from a different project, and you can see it's going to be tight. Another reason for that mid plate probably to be ditched. Lots of room for the motor mount. That's the factory, those 3 holes right there, that's the factory mount there still. AC compressor is far away from it. I have no problems using these mounts. So that's kind of where my brain's at right now. This has actually probably been sitting in here for about 2 weeks now, and I've had a lot of time to sit and stare at it. I am not 100% convinced that I want to like totally solid mount this thing and still be a street driving vehicle primarily, so that's kind of where I'm at. Let me know. I think I'm going to ditch them, but if you can tell me a reason not to, then maybe we'll, let me be convinced. But at the time of filming this, I think they're going to go. What the hell is that? An intercooler. That's where the intercooler is going to go. I had to cut this tube out from across there, so the new mount will incorporate the strength for that back. That tube doesn't really do anything since it's just on the front body mounts, but it kind of holds this, I guess, from twisting. There's no suspension load or anything on it, so it's just kind of there for, some extra rigidity for the front frame horns. So I'll put it back in a different shape. It'll be, again, like I said, part of the mount for this. We'll draw it in CAD. We will make it look cool. And then we will probably, I'm not sure if it's going to weld in or if it's going to have the same idea as those. Have bungs welded in the frame, and we'll bolt it in this way and maybe this way. I don't know. I haven't decided yet. However, that's where that's going to live. I don't know if it's going to wind, well, you can kind of see what I got going on here with this charge pipe. It's shoved over this way because I'm thinking maybe this pump is either going to wind up here, Davies Craig pump in some capacity for the hoses, or this is going to wind up in the back of the truck, like under the box with the tank somewhere. Or who knows, maybe it'll be on the side of this guy, because that's a heat exchanger, which is actually a Honda radiator. Credit to my buddy Kevin for that idea. And Ryan for telling me what, Ryan from Feel Good Auto Works. I sent him a message. I said, hey dude, what's the nicest aluminum Honda radiator I can get with dash 16 fittings in it? Boom, there it is. I know most guys don't run a heat exchanger in air to water setups because they just put ice in the tank. But again, I want to make this truck as efficient as I can on the street It's primarily a street truck. It primarily does all the, whatever you're not supposed to on the street. So I don't want to have to stop and fill up ice. I don't like having to worry about meth tanks and ice tanks and all this other shit. I just like to get in, turn the key, and, quote unquote, open the CO2 bottle, and, that's it. I don't like a lot of switches. I don't like a lot of shit. I just like to be able to get in and press the gas pedal and steer the thing. Okay, so turbo mount. Ta-da! This needs to be coked still and cut and squared up 100%, but I'm just kind of trying to get everything in its place. Everything else is welded. I welded bungs in the chassis, flushed them out, so that's bolted in real good. I really like where the turbo sits. There's a lot of room for the cooling stack, which I've started as well. This is a dual pass all-star radiator that's like 30 something inches wide, 32, 34, I can't remember. And I welded some of our bungs that we make here onto it to mount this gigantic vintage air condenser for the AC, because I 100% need AC because I'm fat and old. And yeah, it's definitely going to have AC, and it's definitely going to have cruise control and all that shit. So next plan of attack is to get that mounted to that, etc. Okay, kiddies, we got a bunch of ready, set, cut parts. Fan shroud, obviously. This is going to be the upper mount for the intercooler. I have 6 of these hanger grommets in it. These need to go in here. These are gussets. Apparently I drew them just the tiniest Red Sea hair too long, so just need to sand down the ends a touch. This is a little gusset for that guy there. Obviously need to coat that tube a little bit. This is not quite level, so I need to fix that. Obviously I'll do that when I coat the tube and then weld that on there, but we can finish that mount up for good. And then these are going to be the heat exchanger mounts. So these are gonna come in here and weld to the radiator end tank like so. And then I'm gonna weld some of these weld bungs that we make onto the sides up there on either side. And then the heat exchanger and the cooling stack number 1, I guess, will be done. Shout out to Renee at Weld Rebel, for supplying me with titanium. So the charge pipes are going to be titanium, all polished. I'm going to polish everything. They're not going to be coated this time. They're going to be all polished. The engine clamps on all 4 connections. So obviously they'll go to aluminum on the intercooler, aluminum on the turbo, and aluminum on the throttle body whenever we get one on there. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. I'm excited about that. We're gonna do titanium charge pipes. He's got flanges coming for me for my wastegates and my blow-offs. So the blow-off valves, I'm gonna run twin 50 mil blow-off valves near the throttle body. And then my twin gates are gonna be, somewhere in here. They're gonna be mounted on the hot side. Obviously, that's all gonna be stainless. And then the screamer pipes, which I think are gonna come out the bumper still, where the old one used to be. There'll be 2 now, and they'll be titanium. And then we're gonna have a 5-inch downpipe that's stainless, so it's a little tougher, handles the heat and longevity a little bit better. And then I think I'm undecided if I'm gonna do a complete 5-inch exhaust and just have it in party mode all the time, or if I do a 5-inch cutout and a 4-inch exhaust. I don't know. I know 5-inch cutouts exist, but QTP makes them, and we have thrown so many of those fucking things in the garbage because they suck. But I'm kind of leaning towards a 5-inch exhaust right now, but I'm not 100% sure. So yeah, we'll see. Rad's in, kinda, sorta. Zip tie holding it from falling over. I got it sat up on some 123 blocks because when the grill's in there, if you don't know these trucks, there's a mustache bar kind of thing that comes across here. So I'm trying to keep as much of it up in the radiator as possible, or up in the grill, I mean. And that's my spacing for the turbo, which is pretty cool. Always wanted a, visible turbo from the grill. The best part about this truck is that, aside from having the radials on it and it being really low, I can put a set of stock wheels on it. And other than that, again, other than it being really low, we can put a stock set of wheels on it and it can, pass for just a stock lowered truck. Of course, if I have the windows down, you'd see the cage, whatever, but I generally don't have the back windows down when I drive, and you can't see the door bars from the front windows, so it's pretty unsuspecting. You really gotta, this is all black, even the screws, they've faded since we did them last, so again, this is all gonna get redone, but yeah, there's a lot of, obviously you could look and see, and people notice that occasionally, and sometimes if the sun hits the tint, right, you can see the bars through the tint and whatever, but generally this truck is pretty unassuming when it's got stock wheels on it, so this is just another little Easter egg, I guess, when the grill's in, just to catch the turbo. The radiator's gonna be coated black, and we've always coated the end tanks on them and left the core uncoated. And it's actually going to work out really well on this because with that AC condenser, all you can see is the core on either side. So, and then, this is obviously going to get the same treatment. So, yeah, pretty happy with how this is turning out. Okay, so I'm going to set the heat exchanger in there, and I'll show you what I have planned for the brackets. Heat exchanger's roughed in. It has obviously a rad cap because it's actually a radiator. So that's gonna get cut out. I'm gonna put, honestly, I'm not even sure that I'm gonna put a cap back on this or if I just weld that shut. This is a factory grill mount. This is, if you don't know me, I have two of these trucks. One of them is right there, hooked to our trailer. That's actually this guy's trailer. And that truck is the same as this truck, but it's a turd. It looks cool from here, but it's a turd. Take my word for it. It has seen every single Canadian winter ever. So that's why there's such a stark difference in this piece and this piece, because this is from that truck. Because the one from this truck has a True Cool 40K all mounted into the deal, and I knew I was going to cut this piece apart anyway, and that truck didn't have a training cooler in it, and we pull a trailer with it all the time. So I put that in there, did the old switcheroony. That's got a True Cool in it now, and this one's getting cut up because it's either going to wind up getting cut up and thrown out and replaced with a new one, or it's going to get powder coated and cut and welded and cut and welded and cut and welded and powder coated. So yeah, anyway, so the whole bottom of it's gone, like I said, because this thing means nothing to me, and I just wanted to get some shit in there to see what it looked like and kind of base my ideas off of there. So there's supposed to be, this is supposed to hang way down. You can see it's nice and sharp still. It's supposed to hang way down, has a little bracket that goes down, or a little piece of tube kind of thing that goes down to each corner. It's all gone. So this right now is just wedged in here on the rad cap. Like I said, that's going away. I don't know if I'm going to put a cap in it or not. Probably should, because it's going to be far and away the highest thing in this cooling system, especially with the tank. That's going to be way at the back, so I should probably have some type of bleeding capability up here, I guess. Bleeding and or filling. But yeah, anyway, here is the mount. There's two of these, obviously. Ignore the washers on the bolts. I apparently don't have any button heads that are short enough to do this, or grade 8 bolts that are short enough, which is crazy given we have 500 million bolts here. This bracket will get welded to the end tank of the rad, you know, like so. And then those weld bungs will get welded to the bracket on the radiator. Again, I gotta cut this out more. I'm gonna actually totally remove this chunk right here across the whole thing. It's just a, you know, laser welded thing that needs to get the welds ground and then take that actual piece off so that I can raise this up slightly. I think I'm gonna shoot to maybe bring it up into that gap a little bit, but overall it fits pretty good. It fits really good, actually. I'm super happy with how that whole stack comes together. More than likely the training cooler is going to wind up under the box. We make our own Intercooler 40K fan shrouds right there. Boop. And we have lots of the little small fans kicking around. There's 4 of them there. There's 2 more of them over there. So I'm gonna run one of those on the back of the truck. We sell those kits, by the way. I'll put the link in the bio, or the description, I guess, not the bio. I'll put the link in the description for those cooler kits. And if my voice sounds weird, forgive me, because I am a little under the weather, but I'm feeling all right. What I also forgot to mention is there used to be a fill cap, pressure cap on the radiator right here. Cut it out, filled it in, metal worked the tank. Because like I said earlier, I wanted to get this rad up as high as I could. So this is pretty much the right amount of gap for me. And I'm pretty happy with how far this cooling stack sticks out into the engine bay. It gives me lots of room for the charge pipe down the cold side of the intercooler, and you know, whatever else winds up in here. The stock washer bottle goes over here. That's going to wind up going back in. Maybe we'll mount the pump somewhere down there for the heat exchanger setup. I'm not sure yet. There's so many things to put in this truck, it's not even funny. I got to run a crossover, obviously, over to that flange right there. Rad hoses. Rad hoses are going to be AN. That fitting has to get pulled out of the water pump and welded. You can already see that I have a billet specialties lower. And yeah, that intake is a mid-ram. I'm going to put a high ram on it. We just had a mid-ram in stock, so I just stuffed it on there for the time being. But you can see how much lower this has got to get addressed to. That's where my old high ram used to sit on my LT. And again, this is a mid-ram, so don't get too excited, but there is a pile of room still between the LS and the LT, and that's because the LTs have the injectors in the head, like in the combustion chamber rather than in the intake, obviously, so the head has to be cast that much taller. So that puts the intake up higher. You got fuel rails and stuff to get over with the intake ports and stuff, so again, it gets all higher, and it just, that was me panicking to get to the dyno or something, I'm not sure, but we'll metal work that, we'll pan it, it'll never happen, or it will have never happened. So yeah. Next plan of attack is to get the heat exchanger fit onto the cooling stack like I wanted it, or I want it to. Get this little metalwork piece out of here, and then plan the actual mount for the radiator cooling stack kind of setup so it's actually held in the truck rather than just being held by a zip tie and some 1-2-3 blocks. And then yeah, this mount for the, like I was showing you earlier, is gonna go somewhere like that. Oops. Probably gonna actually go that way. And then yeah, there'll be some type of between the frame rails that actually holds it up. And I'll probably still do some type of lower mount for this thing because it's super heavy and it's empty. So with water in it, it'll probably weigh a good chunk. So I want to make sure it's supported properly. I don't want it, you know, swinging around or hitting anything. It's awfully close to the front bumper too, which I want to keep it that way just to give me room for charge pipes. And this is kind of all dead space in these trucks anyway. There's really nothing under here. I used to have an oil cooler under here, which is not going to be, that's why that's cut out. I used to have the license plate filler not here, and this used to be cut out, so this is going to get replaced with a new factory GM one. But yeah, there used to be an oil cooler there that I got rid of. So yeah, I think that's going to end it for this video. Next plan of attack, like I said, get all that cooling stack stuff mounted. And I think I'm going to go ahead and pull these motor plates out. Get the motor bolted in with the actual AFP motor mounts. And then get the driveline angles drawn out on CAD. Start planning the tranny mount, tranny cross member, because they hang. Where is it? That's the tranny cross member. They hang super low in these trucks, and mine was smashed. Obviously, because this truck is stupidly low and unnecessarily low. So yeah, I'm gonna cut those out, make a nice tubular cross member that's tucked way higher, and then we'll start building headers, I think, question mark. But yeah, anyway, see you next time. Bye-bye.